For a century, literary fiction ended when the character finally understood their problem. The epiphany, the recognition, the moment of painful clarity. And then credits roll, story over. But what if that's not the ending? What if that's where the real story begins? Welcome back to the Integration Fiction Podcast. I'm AI Eleanor. In the last episode, we talked about what integration fiction is. Characters as chefs, cooking with their life experiences instead of just recognizing them. Today we're going deeper. How does integration fiction actually differ from traditional literary fiction? And how does it build on what came before? Let's start with Anton Chekhov, arguably the most influential short story writer in history. Chekhov gave us a principle that has shaped literary fiction for over 100 years. He said, "The task of a writer is not to solve the problem, but to state the problem correctly." This was revolutionary. Before Chekhov, stories often wrapped up with neat moral lessons. The good were rewarded, the wicked were punished, problems were solved. Chekhov said, no, life isn't like that. The writer's job is to illuminate the problem with such clarity that readers can recognize it in their own lives. That's enough. That's the gift. And he was right. Recognition is a gift. Seeing your patterns clearly, understanding why you do what you do, that's powerful. But integration fiction asks what comes after recognition. Here's how I'd evolve Chekhov's principle. The task of a writer is not to solve the problem, but to state the problem correctly and show how the character extracts value from it. Not solve it, extract value from it, turn it into an ingredient. That's the shift. We're not abandoning Chekhov, we're building on him. So let's break down the actual differences between traditional literary fiction and integration fiction. There are 4 big ones. First, the character development arc. In traditional literary fiction, the journey goes like this. The character starts in ignorance or denial, they move toward recognition, they reach acceptance, story ends. The ending is, the character understands their situation differently now. The reader takeaway is insight about human nature, psychological patterns, why people do what they do. In integration fiction, the arc continues. Ignorance, denial, recognition, acceptance, and then active transformation. The ending is, the character implements their new understanding to improve their relationships. The reader takeaway isn't just insight, it's a model. They see wisdom in action. Here's a concrete example. Traditional. A character realizes their fear of intimacy stems from childhood abandonment. Story ends with this revelation. Same realization. But then the character creates specific family traditions that help their own child feel securely connected. We see them doing something with the insight. Second, time orientation. Traditional literary fiction asks, how does the past explain the present? The structure shows how past experiences illuminate current behavior. The resolution is understanding the connection between then and now. The reader thinks, now I understand why this character behaves this way. Integration fiction asks a different question. How can past and present be combined to create a better future? Past experiences aren't just explanations. They're ingredients for conscious transformation. The reader thinks, I can see how to use my own experience more consciously. It's the difference between archaeology and cooking. Traditional fiction excavates the past, integration fiction cooks with it. Third, cultural representation. This one matters a lot to me. Traditional literary fiction often explains cultural elements for outsider understanding. The purpose is cultural education or atmospheric detail. It can feel like tourism, interesting, but at a distance. Integration fiction treats cultural elements as integral to psychological function. They're not there to teach outsiders about a culture. They're there because the story needs them to work. Characters create hybrid identities authentically. They don't choose between cultures. They integrate them. The reader doesn't just learn about an unfamiliar culture. They witness authentic cultural evolution. Fourth, problem resolution. In traditional literary fiction, problems are understood, accepted, or transcended. The focus is on how characters cope with unchangeable circumstances. The outcome is psychological adjustment to reality. The implicit message: wisdom comes from accepting what you cannot change. In integration fiction, problems become raw materials. The focus is on how characters actively reshape their circumstances. The outcome is practical improvement through applied wisdom. The implicit message: wisdom comes from integrating what you've learned into new action. Now you might be thinking, okay, but isn't this just self-help with better prose? Fair question. Here's the distinction. Self-help narratives are prescriptive. They give you specific steps to follow. Do these 5 things and your life will improve. The solutions are meant to be universal. One approach fits most situations. Integration fiction is demonstrative. It shows the process of creative problem solving, not the solution itself. Each character finds approaches suited to their specific circumstances. There's no template to copy. Instead, you witness someone extracting value from their unique situation. The key difference: integration fiction doesn't provide solutions for readers to copy. It demonstrates that creative solutions exist. When you watch a character figure out how to use their specific past to serve their specific present, something shifts. You start to believe in your own agency. You think, if they can cook with their ingredients, maybe I can cook with mine. That's empowerment, not prescription. Let me give you the full arc of how fiction has evolved. Recognition, the Chekhov era. I see it now. Characters gain sudden insight through epiphany moments. Acceptance, mid-20th century. Think Raymond Carver, Richard Ford. I can live with this. Characters learn to endure limitation and make peace with what can't be changed. Appreciation, contemporary literary fiction. I can find meaning in this. Characters reframe their experience and discover value in what they previously saw as burden. Integration, emerging now. I can actively use this. Characters become chefs of their own experience, combining past and present to create something new. Integration fiction doesn't replace what came before, it completes the progression. Recognition, acceptance, and appreciation are all valuable, but they're steps toward wisdom. Integration fiction asks, what does wisdom in action actually look like? Here's the simplest way to feel the difference. After reading traditional literary fiction, you might think, that was beautifully written. It helped me understand human nature better. After reading integration fiction, you think, that was beautifully written, and it showed me that meaningful change is possible in my own life. Both are valid, both have value. But for readers who've already done their recognition work, through therapy, through self-reflection, through life experience, integration fiction offers the next step. Not just understanding, application. So that's how integration fiction builds on tradition while moving forward. Same commitment to beautiful prose, same psychological depth, same respect for complexity, but with one addition, showing what happens when insight becomes action. In the next episode, we're going to challenge a sacred rule of writing workshops: show, don't tell. Turns out even Chekhov, the master of objectivity, broke this rule at the most important moments. And understanding why changes everything. Thanks for listening. See you in episode 3.